All right, so we have another edition of the original digital series on Media Village, and I am joined by somebody who I'm very excited to have on here, Rachel Macik. Rachel and I have worked together a couple different times, Cisco, FIS. Rachel, why don't you just give everybody a little bit of introduction about you?
Alrighty, Rachel Mossick, currently working at FIS, as Corey said. That's a software company for banking software for financial systems, and I'm currently leading integrated marketing.
Yep. And you are what I would call my guru of product marketing. You know more about product marketing than most people will ever have forgotten.
That's a lot of stress. Okay, I'll be
No,
ready.
it's not stress, it's excitement. It's a compliment.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, so I want to just talk a little bit about product marketing because the audience for who watches this, the whole goal is around people who've either been original in the digital industry or bring
Mhm.
original ideas to it. And I've always respected and loved how you're able to bring very original ideas to the organization, to the structure, to the ways product marketing works. And the first question I'd have for you is based off of one of my philosophical approaches. Like, I believe that product and marketing have to be very, very intertwined. A
Yes.
lot of times people don't think that way, but you do. So just talk a little bit about why you think product and marketing should be so intertwined.
I definitely think of myself as a creative person at heart. Started my career as a designer, not a good one, but I started that way. I feel like I love product marketing because that's where like art and science meet. And that's where the magic happens. So if you're all techie and only speak that language, or if you're all marketing and only speak that language and the two don't collide, you are going to miss being able to tell the right story. And so I
Mhm.
think that's why I love it so much. It's also really hard. It's not something that you can just do really simply. You have to be technical and creative in order to make that happen.
Yeah. And do you think that the people who typically are in that product marketing vein, do you think they typically lean one side or the other? And if so, how do you kind of bring them to have the full understanding, the full scope of what is required?
I do think we've hired from marketing into to be a product marketer, and we've also hired product managers who have like a marketing tendencies
Mhm.
to be product marketing. And so it's I've seen both sides work absolutely well. I feel like the best common thread that I could probably weave in there is the ability to ask the right questions. So if you can ask the right questions, it doesn't even matter what industry you came from, you can be a really good product marketer and like that industry agnostic product marketer. If you're kind of thinking like a journalist, I feel like
Mhm.
is a little bit more of a good connection there. And being able to ask the right questions and being able to articulate back what the product is and what they're saying and making sure that they believe in what you're saying and how you're re-articulating it, and then other people who have never heard of the product before, they get it. And that's very important. So I'd say that's probably the best way to bring those two together.
But how technical do you think a good product marketer has to be? Because that can be daunting, that can be overwhelming, and it can be intimidating to people.
So I've always been in, while industry agnostic, it's always software. So when it comes to software, you have to know how software works. You have to know the ecosystem. You have to know a little bit about APIs, a little bit about everything, enough to ask those right questions. I feel like that's so important. If you're just going to hear someone's story or hear a technical version of what they're going to launch or what they want to go to market, or maybe they're looking for a competitive analysis, if you're not asking those deeper questions and trying to connect to the rest of the world, you're just going to miss it. um, I I think that that's where you can kind of bridge that gap of not knowing all the technicalities of things. It's also a benefit for you not to know, because then you can ask the right questions, and I don't want to say dumb down the story, but you can like make it more simple. Like doing something simple is the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
Make it simple. People don't read anymore, they do video,
Mhm.
they do podcast. Like we're very audible learners, and so if you're going to write something, make sure that it's scannable, um, And that's going to be important, and they're not always looking for technical speeds and feeds. They're looking at solving problems. So that doesn't always have to be a deep dive in tech.
Yeah. You actually mentioned something really kind of funny and interesting in there. You talk about how video, right? What role does video play for product marketing? And you're right. Everybody likes to see things,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, no one wants to sit through a long video.
No,
So it's really interesting. You do have to actually figure out how to make a story very succinct and very simple and short while still getting the points across. And you can use video to do that, but that's also an art in and of itself.
it is. It is. It's almost like you have to think of your videos as chapters. If
Yeah.
you're trying to teach someone what this software capability, what the software does, they'll never sit for that. If you teach them a use case, this is how you log in and start your interview. Give me that use case. That's what I'm going to be Googling. I don't know I need your software yet. I
Mhm.
just know I need to solve a problem. So if you help people solve those problems, and you're not trying to overreach and try to teach them how to use your software and tell them your whole life story in a single video, that's the important piece. So if you can kind of lead those breadcrumb trails of those use cases, especially in the software world, it's that's golden. And
Yeah.
I would also add being personable. So bigger the companies get, the less personable they get. And I want to know, you know, about me. I want to know that the person I'm learning from understands where I'm coming from. You have empathy for the role that I'm playing. And I want to know your name. I want to know that you really work for the company. I want to know that you're not an actor. And so I think that that brings in credibility.
Mhm.
And if I see you at an event or somewhere in real life, like it just brings in that connection to kind of help bring a personal brand to a big company.
So do you think product marketing then is the face of the product to the consumer? Or do you
No.
think it's something else?
So sometimes, if you look at Microsoft is a really good example, they bring product marketers in to do demos. So they are actually, the driving the car and doing the demo.
Mhm.
Other product marketers will enable the product management team to actually be that person doing the demo. Both models work
Mhm.
perfectly well. If you're going to be the product marketer actually doing the demo, you do need to have a larger technical acumen to be able to answer those questions and put yourself in the shoes of that actual user or admin.
Yeah.
Um, if you're going to enable the product management team, you need to teach them to be human, to say their name, to it's okay to make mistakes, to be though don't be overly scripted.
They're
That
not known for that either.
no, not. And they're, I think historically, especially with big companies, so risk adverse, being able to put a mic in front of someone and they can just talk freely. That's not a controlled environment, but it has to be. I think that that is definitely the way of the future. People want to know the people behind the screens.
Yeah. Now, take a slightly different way of thinking about this for a second. Um, Product marketing is one of those funny things, and I used this cliche the other day, so I apologize for using it here. But if you remember back in the 90s when the government was trying to do a lot of censorship around music and movies and stuff like that, and they were talking about like adult content, and
Yeah.
they used the term pornography, but they basically said, well, I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it. And it's kind of like that with product marketing because it's a hard one to define. You know it when you see it, but how do you define product marketing by one sentence?
Well, not the way you just described, because I don't want that to be my headline for this week. But I do think that for product marketing, it's the art and science. It's matching those two together. And you can lean more into one versus the other, but you have to appreciate the other side.
Mhm.
And so tying those together, that's where you get really good content. That's where you come up with good ideas. That's where the innovation happens, or that ideation where you can kind of bring those two people that think differently into the same room or into the same virtual room when you're starting to
Yeah.
plan or go to market. That's where the cool stuff happens.
Well, think about then, let's look at it from a different perspective. Think of those Venn diagrams where you've got product management and you've got marketing. Product
Mm-hmm.
marketing kind of sits in the middle. How do you differentiate the role of a product manager versus a product marketer? And how do you convince the rest of marketing that this is product marketing?
product manager, product marketer. The manager is going to help design what the roadmap looks like. This is when I'm going to do all these things, when I'm going to release, when this is going to be available. Some product managers are actually hands-on, actually coding, depending on how big your
Yeah.
company is. And the product marketer says when the best time. So there's this event coming up. Can we hold your announcement? Or actually the competitor just released something very similar, we got to get in there. Or I heard that they're going to release something soon, we got to be first. So it's like timing versus what the plan is, and those have to come together in order to make the biggest splash in the market. One, I would say the product manager has the story, the product marketer helps tell the story. So the product manager knows what they want to say, they just don't know how to say it,
Yeah.
or the way that they may need some coaching or some finessing around how that story could be changed up just a little bit to be more applicable to the rest of the universe. And for marketing, some marketing organizations don't even have product marketing. They go from like campaign to campaign, but that's also where you're not leaning into making sure that that technical story is right. Because you're just assuming that whatever the product management team is saying is right, the right thing to say, without looking at the rest of the universe and making sure that it's going to resonate with the people you're trying to attract.
Yeah.
So like that, all that has to come together.
And one more sort of detailed question about that same path.
Yeah.
So if product marketing is really around the definition and the storytelling of the product, its benefits, where does that begin and positioning ends?
I think it is positioning.
Positioning at a more granular level than the overall brand, probably, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's so you would never want to launch a product that has its own branding uniquely of itself without connecting to your master brand.
Right.
You have your master brand, it usually has a story. It has a personality, you have a tagline, you have a campaign, all of those things. But if you take that master brand and then take a complete pivot and start talking about something else with no connection, you're like, what is happening? Are these even part of the same company? It all has to ladder down. I love the pyramid principle. Actually, the book is like the McKinsey book. It's pretty old school. Don't even need to read it. Back to video. There's tons of YouTube videos on it. That's like 1 minute long. It's kind of telling that story upside down, and it's all in threes. Tell me the first three things that are most important, and then give me three reasons those three things are important for each of them. And then it just kind of gets bigger and bigger. I feel like product marketing is kind of that bottom of that pyramid or the bottom of that iceberg, where you can tell the story really succinctly. It matches to your master brand, but you have all of those details at the ready for other times within the buying cycle that you need to get them out.
Yeah.
But slow rolling the story is the most important part, because it's like, I like to compare it to like going on a first date. You know, tell your whole story on your whole life story on the first date. Don't let the other person talk. You're not getting invited again. You have to kind of slow roll it, you know.
And that's a good analogy because I know the story about how you met your husband. So that first thing is quite good. We'll tell that some other time.
Some other time.
Okay, so now let's go back a little bit further. Do you believe that anybody in the organization, or at least anybody in the marketing organization, has the ability to be a good product marketer? Or are there a set of characteristics that you look for? Because you've hired some good ones over the years.
Yeah, definitely characteristics I look for. I would go back to asking the right questions. If you're in an interview, or if I'm interviewing and you don't ask anything, ask me about the actual product. Ask me about how many product managers are to a product marketer. How many, like, ask me about the actual position. Ask me deeper questions. That's important. I think wanting to know more about the tech is also really important. Some people want to have the information given to them and they want to finesse the words or the visual expression of what you're trying to say, and they don't necessarily need to get back into the technical teams. They're just going to take and finesse or make better whatever you gave them, that's
Mhm.
okay too. There's tons of roles within marketing. It's when you tell people you're in marketing these days, I feel like we're finally out of everyone thinks you're doing trade shows or like
Yeah.
signing brochures. It's very multi-talented, multifaceted. There's so many different roles. I don't think everyone's right for product marketing because it does have to like the art and science, the technical side, the visual side, the brand side, being able to see how everything interconnects. That's really important. And not everyone has that instinct to do it. I also think it's trainable.
Mhm.
So I've got some, I've mentored some younger folks right out of college. You're not going to college to learn how to be a product marketer. You probably never even heard of it. So when you get in and you're looking for your first job or you landed an internship and now you're accidentally in this product marketing group, you're like, what is this? That those skills can definitely be taught, but I feel like it's also a really good starting point for folks because the product marketer is there's someone on my team that called it the mitochondria of the cell, where he said
Mm.
that like it's the middle of everything. So you're thinking of your Venn diagram, product, marketing, but it's also sales, it's also design, it's messaging, it's brand. You can't do a product marketing role without touching all the
Right.
entire marketing ecosystem, online, digital, advertising, like literally everything.
Yeah.
So even if you don't love product marketing, it's a really good place to start in order to be able to touch everything that's connected to it and then kind of find out from there where your love is or where your highest interest is pulling you in. And I've
Yeah.
had lots of marketers do that where they're kind of pivoting out of the role from product marketing into something else. I think it works great.
Yeah. Well, I think, we've hired some of those people and some people have worked out and some people haven't when you and I have worked together. And I think it's interesting. You're right about the inquisitiveness. Absolutely. I also find that a product marketer has to be a really good writer, right? You
Yeah.
have to be able to succinctly state things and to write it. You probably have to know how to use tools, and we'll get to the tools in a second, like AI and some of those things to continue to improve upon what you write. But, and this is a characteristic I think is pretty valuable because of what you just said. I
Mhm.
think they have to have a very low ego because they are involved in so many aspects of marketing, and a lot of people think they own those aspects of marketing. And so you have to figure out how do you build a relationship across the marketing org and all those different areas, the product org and all those different areas, and convince people that it's not about you owning anything. It's not about you changing anything. It's about evolving all those and synthesizing them down into a single story and message in a way that the end customer will understand, will perceive quickly, and will understand the relevance and act on it, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's Murder Your Darlings. They're used to like the where you have to like be ready to get rid of the words that you wrote.
Yeah,
Yes, be precious and you built this, but if you're not asking for feedback, you're not finished. You
yeah,
need to keep going. And so that being able to write is really important. I know you want to get to the tools in a minute, but the asking the right questions and AI prompts go
yeah,
hand in hand. Like
yeah,
that, if you can ask the right questions, you can get the right story. So whether
yeah,
it's a human or a machine, like that, that's important. And the ability to write and tell a story through words, beginning and end, a target audience, who are you talking to, being succinct, don't be verbose. All of those things are very important, whether you're writing a script for the product manager to do a video, or at least like giving them an outline, or you're writing a blog, or you're writing your next press release. Writing kind of helps you form the story, even if it doesn't end up in words. It does help you kind of articulate the beginning, middle, and end of what you're trying to convey.
yeah. I think one of those tactics that we've done in the past that I still love is when you're first thinking about doing a launch for a product or a release or a feature, write the press release. Because the
Yeah,
press release is the great exercise to help you understand how do you tell the story quickly. And then it will evolve as you're going down the roadmap. But even when you're first developing the product, write the press release of what you want it to do and what you want it to say, and then continue to see if it still fits into that box of those parameters later.
yeah, that's your end game.
Yeah,
So what is it? It's your North Star, it's your end game, it's your goal. Like, what do you want to happen? And then you reverse engineering something
yeah.
is the best way to get to a really solid product for sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to the tools because
Okay.
We don't have a whole lot of time, but I definitely want to hit on this. So a lot of people think they can go to ChatGPT now and just have it spit out a product marketing document or a byline or whatever. I know, and I think you know that when anybody ever does that, I can tell in seconds if they just wrote it in ChatGPT or Copilot, or if they actually took it themselves and played with it. How do you think these various tools, AI or otherwise, are valuable and useful for a product marketer versus being replaceable?
I think Chat GPT is like a public entity, is a great way to ask questions and to get answers from multiple sources. I always also ask it to give me the source information for anything that it's answering for me so I can go back and read it myself. So asking those questions to sort of figure out the lay of the land, perfect for that external shared server. When you're getting into writing, we're using Jasper AI as a tool. There's lots of other ones. I know you helped us kind of set this up, and there's a lot of corporations that are risk adverse to like even starting AI, but it's here no matter what. People are using their second computers to get in the information that they need. What's what I feel like is important, especially when you're looking at product marketing and you have proprietary information for like a launch, or you're doing some research, or you're building new messaging, you need to have a protected server. So when you are uploading your documents, or if we have documents from agencies that we've purchased and we have individual licenses to read those documents, I can use them and I can quote them, but I can't upload them for the rest of the universe to have
Right.
access to. So having that locked down is really important. I would also like to lean in that starting with AI is your idea. That is your getting started. That is removing writer's block. That should
Yeah.
not be your end game.
Yeah.
That you have to add your voice back into it, whether it's your brand voice, your personal voice. It has to be your own, and have to make sure that everything's actually true that is putting in there. You do have to double check.
Yeah, a lot of the data that's in the AI platforms, if it's bad data and incorrect information, it can't tell the difference. It can't um, have a critical thinking eye applied to it. So if it's wrong in there, you're going to look silly because you're perpetuating something that's incorrect.
Right. So
Yeah.
check your source, protect the data that you're putting in, and make sure that if it's proprietary, keep it that way. I'd say that that's really important.
So check and protect. It sounds like a Wu-Tang album.
Yeah, it could be the next one.
All right, cool. Last question for you. If someone's getting into marketing,
Mhm.
how would you advise them to think about considering a role in product marketing, and what's the end result of that? What's the outcome of getting into a product marketing funnel?
I'd say I would first ask, what do they like doing? So marketing could mean a million different things. It could be technical, it could be analytical, you could be a data scientist.
And
Like
we all do trade shows.
it could be, yeah, and write brochures and do graphics. And that's what everybody thinks in my family. They think I still do that. Um, I would ask, what do you like doing? Not even just in marketing, but like in the world. What are your hobbies? What do you love doing? That's important, because then you're going to naturally be better at whatever you're signing up to do.
Mhm.
Um, and then if you're unsure, like taking in an intern or a first time employee, or someone who's transitioning into marketing for the first time from another role, product marketing is a great place to start, because it is the center and it touches all of those different groups. So you're working with multiple people, and you get to kind of test all those different worlds. I think if you're not sure, it's a great place to start. If you have technical acumen, you've done it before, and you can think a little bit more like a journalist and a storyteller, then I definitely want you.
All right, well, in my next career, I'm going to come back and be a product marketer. I'm going to work for you.
All right, I sold it.
All
Done.
right, awesome. Well, thanks, Rachel. Appreciate the time. Hopefully, have a wonderful rest of the day. Okay.
Happy. Thank you.